Red Eye is a high-octane thriller that takes place on a plane with an officer called Hannah Lee taking a prisoner called Matthew Nolan across to Beijing on a Red Eye flight for a murder he didn't exist. And on that plane, lots of exciting things happen, murders and other wrongdoing. So my character is called Tony Zhang. He is the undercover air marshal on the Red Eye flight, and his aim is to kind of make sure the flight goes as smoothly as possible, which I'm not sure if that's possible, and then make sure that the flight arrives in Beijing. It's almost like a real plane in itself. You can't move anything. We had to act in the seats, the aisles and the galleys. It's a really tight and tense environment, so I think that really comes across in the performances as well. I absolutely loved all the action sequences. I don't get the chance to do many, so I kind of threw myself into these literally and got myself covered in bruises and stuff like that. They were so much fun to do. Mark Mottram, the stunt coordinator, came up with some really furious and brutal sequences in such tight, small spaces. But they were a lot of fun. I did end up with someone's footprint bruise on my chest after one scene, but I obviously won't tell you who that was.
Jess is an aspiring journalist and she's temping currently, and basically she has at the start a bit of sort of like a tense relationship with her sister Hannah, and then we find her at the start of the story where she figures out that Hannah's kind of found what is a part of the central of this like big story that's going on, and she then begins to chase the story, but every time she reaches out to Hannah, Hannah is there to stop it from happening. So yeah, we find her she finds this thread and she pulls on it to get this story. There's lovely moments of humanity as well with Jess, where she is quite rogue in the sense that she's super determined and she kind of wants to get this story. But this man who is essentially starts out to be quite dangerous might not actually be as dangerous to her as she thinks that he becomes. But she does cause chaos wherever she goes. So I feel like Jess is a bad omen for anyone that comes into contact with her. But also she has a lot of humanity, and there's a lot of moments where she connects a lot with these characters that she meets and is able to kind of like pull the story along to make sense of what's going on in the plane, and then a conversation starts happening with the plane and Jess, and then everyone putting two and two together of what's kind of happening. I've just never seen a role written like this. First of all, she was born in Hong Kong. She is mixed. Her name was Jemma in the first casting breakdown, so I was like, is this me? But I just fell in love with the writing, Peter's writing, and how she was like cheeky, she was determined, she's ruthless as well. But also she has these moments where everything's getting away with her, and so she feels that she's sort of treading on water a bit. And first of all, you don't see women written like this, and I've also never seen a mixed character written like this from an EC sort of white background. And then for Jess, I think in episode 4, when she's with Sir George, is kind of her big moment. Everything kind of clicks into place for her, and then she's like, okay, Hannah, now you have to listen to me. And that's the moment where her and Hannah start to communicate maybe a bit more, and there's also a lot of shooting and I'm being chased by an assassin. So it's kind of this very exciting moment for my character.
I'm playing Meline Delaney, who is Director General of MI5 and is returning to work, and on her first day back, everything's going wrong on the plane. So her first day back after a 13-month absence is fraught with plane to Beijing, plus very snaky colleague and potentially untrustworthy lover. And it's really fantastic to be able to play a senior female who absolutely has control over a very difficult situation. She's a great character, very three-dimensional. Yeah, Madeline's trying to work out exactly what is behind the trouble that's going on up in the air. And there are various, it's whether or not it's Chinese or American, or there's another agency involved that's got their claws into a very innocent doctor who's on this flight back to Beijing. I think maybe the standout moment, which is not necessarily, you know, a dramatic moment perhaps for the audience, but certainly for the character, is that, you know, she's ruthless, Meline Delaney, but in the end she will put her career on the line to save innocent people. So there is a nobility combined with a killer instinct, which is really interesting, and that stand out for me.